Now, with where you were today, you ran a personal best time by over a tenth of a second. What are you going to take away from this race after you had a chance to calm down and think about what happened?
First of all, I know that I kind of stumbled towards the end. You know, it was kind of maintenance issue. I didn't keep my foot dorsiflex and push, but I can't just sit back and blame it on excuses and just. I'm too much a veteran to just make those mistakes when we worked on it in practice. With my coach James Dames. I just say to God be the glory. It wasn't what I wanted, but it's a PR. At the end of the day, I take it. So I just gotta give God glory first of all. I just want to thank my mom, my dad, my coach, James Daniels, Dr. Pascal, for getting me to this race. Just such heartbreak when you miss it by thousandths of a second. But I'm blessed just to be in this final, just to be where I'm at. This is only fuel for the fire to get me where I need to be. You haven't seen the rest of me yet. The best is yet to come.
All right. Tap in. This is the best podcast in the Carolinas, North and South. I got a special guest with me tonight, Calesio Newman. One time for Calesio Newman, man. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Let's get it in. Before we get started, I want to tell Newman, happy birthday, man.
Thank you.
All right. How old you is?
36.
All right, big 36. Hey, you still young.
Oh, yeah.
You still young.
Always young.
That's right. Okay. Anybody you want to give a shout out to before we get started?
Just shout out, man, to the 910 Dreamville, man. Shout out to, all my athletes that I train, both far and near. I just want to give all praise to the Most High God. That's right. All praise to the Most High, man. All right. Tell us, how was it growing up, Calesio? Well, I grew up in a town called Willingboro, New Jersey. Tight-knit family, tight-knit community.
Mm-hmm.
Everything around there was military, but also everybody was pretty much tight.
Good.
And I had a lot of friends. We hung out, and we did a lot of great things in the community. We had our little bumps and bruises,
Mm-hmm.
but I can say that New Jersey kind of built that foundation in me to as far as athletics is concerned. I played baseball out there.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, did not play football as much as the football coach wanted me to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't get a chance to play football out there. Although I did play backyard football and basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport.
Good.
Growing up. But
yes.
The rest is history.
All right, man. The rest is history, man. Calesio Newman, Aggie's finest. Tell us, man, how'd you get introduced to track?
So funny story. When I was in, because I grew up in, once I moved from New Jersey, I ended up moving to South Carolina,
mm-hmm.
and so me and the baseball coach, we ended up getting into it. We didn't see,
wow.
the same views and everything. I wanted to pitch. He
Yeah.
wanted to be in the outfield, and I didn't want to be in the outfield. I wanted to pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up, and then he said some remarks that I ain't gonna respond to. But
Okay.
long story short, what ended up happening was my PE teacher. He was like, "We're gonna have track and field today." So
Good.
so I ended up running fast enough for him to pull his glasses down and look at me and say, "Young man, you're a track athlete."
There you go.
So that was 7th grade when I did that, and I ended up joining the track team, and I did very well in 7th grade, and everybody was telling me, "Man, if you ever get some spikes,
Yeah.
you will be dynamic." So that's how I got into track.
There you go. Hey, give it up one time for Newman, man. That's very good. Very good. All right, tap in. Okay. Now, tell us, how'd you get introduced to track?
Well, my dad ran track,
Mm-hmm.
but he ended up going into the military,
Mm-hmm.
and serving our country. But
Very good.
Coach Mayo Phillips, my PE teacher, he's the one that introduced me. But I always was fast. I always enjoyed training. I always enjoyed racing everybody, light pole in New Jersey. And then at the football games, I just always used to race everybody.
Mm-hmm.
In the hallways, I was always racing everybody.
Wow.
I just had that competitive nature just to compete.
That's
and just
crazy.
to run.
That's crazy. That's real good because it was in your blood from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
That's dope. That's dope. Okay, who are some track runners that inspired you growing up?
Well, you know, my high school, well, not my high school, but when I grew up in New Jersey, a name that everybody should know in the track and field world by the name of Carl Lewis. My dad and his brother, they all grew up in the Willingboro Track Club, and they were coached by Carl Lewis's father.
Wow.
And they all went to the same high school. So that area, Carl Lewis is definitely influential, and I heard that name countless times, you know, from my grandmother, from my mom, from my cousins, and everybody in my community. Everybody in my community used to always talk about Carl Lewis. So if there was anything that anybody was doing track and field wise, they would compare you to Carl Lewis. And even when I moved down to South Carolina and I started running track, everybody still compared me to Carl Lewis.
That's it, man. Carl Lewis, Calesio Newman. Tell us, man, why A&T?
Actually, I didn't choose A&T. God chose A&T.
There you go. There you go.
So here's the story. I ended up signing a national letter of intent with Coastal Carolina University in Conway, South Carolina. And so what ended up happening was I was missing the Spanish and the science.
Yes.
So I didn't get a chance to get into Coastal Carolina, but I ended up going to Nike Nationals, high school nationals. Yeah. And that's where, you know, they didn't have my information for whatever reason. Coach James Daniels was the one that recruited me, and he was the assistant coach of North Carolina A&T. Yeah. He's the one that actually recruited me and was like, hey, you know, I do this camp, I do that camp, and you know, I was intrigued about, you know, being on North Carolina A&T's campus.
Wow.
And so the rest is history. He told me everything I needed to do. I went back to Green Sea, South Carolina, which was my high school, and I talked to the superintendent because my grandmother was a school teacher as well. So we ended up having a meeting and ended up going back to my high school during the fall after graduating, which was kind of embarrassing, but I still made it through. Taking my Spanish and my science, and then in the springtime in January, going into North Carolina A&T State University.
Man, well, that's what's up. That's dope right there, man. Shouts out to A&T, man, the Aggies.
Aggie pride.
All right, man. North Carolina, man. Big sports state. You hear me?
Oh yeah.
What's one of the best performances you can remember?
College or pro?
Both.
Okay. So, college, my biggest performance. Best performance was when I was it was my sophomore year. You know, this was outdoor track meet. We was at Tennessee relays, C-Ray relays, and I just ended up. My coach was just like, "Hey, just go out there and run." So I was like, "All right, cool." Yeah. So there was a guy named what was his name? He ran for Reebok. I think is Demi Omoli. Okay. He was a professional athlete, and then you had 3 stud athletes from Tennessee, Reuben Williams, Matthew Pritchard, Evander Wells, and Kyle Stevenson actually was a stud as well. Very good. You know, here I am, little guy from HBCU, North Carolina A&T, and I ended up running 10:08, breaking the school record, and actually getting 3rd in that race behind Reuben Williams and Matthew Pritchard. So that was like, I didn't know what I was doing. It was just like, coach was like, yeah, you broke the school record. So I was just like, cool, all right, not a problem. And then the rest is history. You know, after that, I made nationals for the first time as a sophomore. And this was my sophomore year, so it was kind of, you know, iconic and historic.
That's crazy, dog. That's crazy. The track's in your blood, dude.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. Now, speaking of Nike sponsorships, how did that come about?
So shout out to, you know, my coach James Daniels. He actually was not only a coach, but he ended up becoming a manager and basically kind of like a father figure to me. So when I ended up, I actually in 2011 I was injured. I had an Achilles injury, but my coach stuck with me, stuck by my side. You know, he wrote up everything. And the funny thing about it is, I started doing some rehab, and then my coach was like, "Yeah, you're gonna actually do the 400 and the 200 on this day," and I was like, "I ain't ready. I ain't ready."
Okay.
So I ended up running like 48 flat and 20.6, which was pretty good, you know, pretty fast. So then he was like, "Now you ready?" So I was like, "All right, yeah, I'm ready now." So I started back training, you know, doing everything I was supposed to do, and then I ended up running like 10:14 and beating a guy by the name of Jamie Samuels, who was a professional athlete.
Wow.
And somebody I also look up to, also my bro now. So yeah, I ended up doing that, and I was just like, hey, what do I do now? So my coach was like, I tell you what, he called up an iconic, historic agent by the name of Tony Campbell and TC Management, and he actually faxed over documentation saying that he wanted to sign me.
That's good.
So once he ended up signing me, we ended up working out a contract with Nike. So I got some equipment, got some deals and everything like that, and then I went on to represent the United States in the Pan American Games and came out with a bronze medal.
Big bronze, man. All right. Calesio Newman, man, that's absolutely amazing. Explain to all the people who don't know too much about track numbers, Newman.
So when it comes to numbers, when it comes to track and field, like if you're ranked, if you ranked in the nation, that's cool. But when you start being ranked in the world, that's when Nike, Asics, Puma, Adidas, like all of these shoe companies, they'll start to look at you. Right. Once you start making a final, and once you start, being ranked and you start beating a lot of people, then they will start to see how can we, represent you as far as a dual partnership to where you represent them to run and they represent you financially.
That's right. That's very good. Now talk to us about DNA Performance.
So DNA Sports Performance came out back in May 1st of 2018. It was just a thing that, I started training people, and I really wanted to, tap into the community, tap into Fayetteville, and really just give everybody a fighting chance, level the playing field through sports and education. I see a lot of athletes, I see a lot of trainers that are training these athletes, but they aren't getting the education aspect.
That's right.
So the main thing, and it's no knock to them, it's just me I really wanted to use my platform and utilize my experience to help these kids to actually get a fighting chance. So through DNA Sports Performance, DNA stands for Discipline in Action. So this is how I birthed that, and I was able to help a lot of athletes, accomplish their goals through education.
That's it. DNA Performance, man. Tap in, Fayetteville, man. Y'all got any merch out there, man?
Oh yeah, we still working on the merch for DNA, but I'm actually about to start some orders for the actual track club that I actually just started, and I'm glad that I'm sitting behind this name back here because I was inspired by Mr. J. Cole himself. So because we're in Fayetteville, I decided to name my track club Dreamville Express.
Wow.
So now that I had started with DNA Sports Performance, a lot of athletes say, hey coach, can we start our own track club? So I was like, I started asking them about, different names and colors and things like that. Nobody came up with anything. So I ended up becoming inspired by J. Cole. Good. Shout out to my wife, Tiffany Newman. Right. She definitely, is a big fan of J. Cole, big fan of Dreamville. Good. She's a E.E. Smith alumni. Yep. So she definitely is heavy in the community, heavy out there in the 910 to help, the pillar of the community to help, get these athletes and get these parents, the education and everything that they need. So we combined that together and came up with Dreamville Express Track and Field Club.
That's it. Shouts out to Dreamville Express Track and Field Club. Okay.